The way that we talk to ourselves changes how others perceive us. If we talk out loud, well, they're probably going to think we're crazy. I'm just kidding, but this is so true. The words that we use to describe ourselves, the words that we use in our mind to talk about how we are and, how we're acting, that impact is experienced by others. You might have experienced this, the small critical voice that you have in your head that, reprimands you for doing something wrong, saying something wrong. Maybe it's a very loud voice. Some of us have very, very loud voices in our heads. Sometimes it can be a parent or an older sibling. And when we do something wrong, that voice pops up and tells us we're not good enough or we're so stupid or whatever the thought is. Well, those thoughts, that voice, those words that we're using to describe ourselves and what we do, well, others pick up on that. Because if we're telling ourselves all of the time, we're not good enough. Oh, we're unlikable, we're unlikable, we're unlikable, I'm unlikable. Other people, that idea, those thoughts change our behavior. Because if I'm telling myself all the time I'm unlikable, well, I'm going to go into situations and I'm going to behave in a way and I'm going to perceive others in a way that either makes me unlikable or makes me think that others don't like me. And so it's so important if you have one of those voices in your head, hopefully you don't have too many. If you've got too many, well, maybe go and get some professional help. But if you've got a critical voice in your head, to start being intentional with the words that you use to describe yourself. And this is not about delusional thinking. This is not about lying to yourself. It's about being tactical and constructive with the words that we tell ourselves and the words that we use to describe what we do. Because our words, whether external or internal, shape who we are and they shape the reality that we see and we experience. Okay, so here are a couple of things that you can try to help make that change. So firstly, we can focus on the actual language that we use, the words that we use to describe ourselves. If we are if we're getting fit, for example, you go to the gym. I like to use this as an example because a lot of people can easily imagine it. If you're focused on wanting to get fit, and yet you're constantly telling yourself that you're fat and you're ugly, I'm fat and I'm ugly, I'm fat and I'm ugly, and that voice goes on over and over and over again in your mind, you're reinforcing that belief and you're reinforcing that behavior. Now, you don't need to tell yourself, oh, I'm fit and sexy. I mean, you can. It's quite useful as well. It would be a better alternative to fat and ugly. But what you could do instead, if you don't feel comfortable with the more delusional, I suppose, the delusional way of thinking or speaking, is instead you can tell yourself, instead of saying I'm fat and ugly, you focus on something else. Say, I'm on the path to getting fit and sexy, right? I'm getting fit and sexy. I'm getting fit and sexy, right? So it's not about you being there just yet, but you are acknowledging that you're on the path and you're taking the actions to achieve that result. That's a great way. So changing the language, the words that you use, really great way. Another thing which is quite fun to try is if you have that really critical inner voice, pay attention to how that voice sounds. Because a lot of the time you'll notice that it's not your voice, it is a parent or an older sibling. And what you can do is when you hear that voice, try changing the tone of the voice. Turn it into Mickey Mouse, for example, right? Or Kermit the Frog. Turn it into a really funny voice. And you might find that when you're thinking about that voice and you're hearing that voice in your head, that it's very loud and it overpowers all of these other thoughts that you're having. Well, try turning the volume down. Imagine just what would it be like if you turned the volume down of that voice. Because here's what you'll find when you start changing the characteristics of that voice. Now, all of a sudden, you're hearing a quiet Mickey Mouse voice in your head telling you you're fat and ugly instead of this really loud, overbearing parent shouting at you that you're fat and ugly. When you change that voice and you do that often enough, well, it's very hard to change. It's very hard to take that voice seriously anymore. And when you change those characteristics, you'll notice how you feel when you hear that voice will change. And so it's a great way of disarming the power that that voice has. And you do that long enough, well, that will no longer be something that bothers you anymore. And all of these tools, all of what I teach on this channel and in my community and in my one-on-one program is ways of taking control of your inner world, taking control of your mind, your conscious and subconscious mind, taking control of your physiology, how to really master everything that's going on within you. Because when you do that, you free yourself up. You're all of a sudden able to go through the world, face all of the challenges that you'll inevitably have to face, and do so feeling confident, calm, at peace with yourself, and you'll have the mental models and the mental tools in order to face them head on and get the result that you're after. So if these kinds of videos are interesting to you, well, please like and subscribe. Also share it with a friend if you know somebody who has one of these really loud critical voices. Maybe they had a very harsh parent and they're not confident in themselves because of that. Share this video with them because they might just thank you for it and it might just change their life. All right, I hope that's helpful and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.